Welcome to Karma Chronicles. Please like the video and subscribe. Let's begin. I walked through the front door with my boots still on, dead on my feet after a 14-hour shift at the logistics hub. My back ached, my hands were sore, and all I wanted was a hot shower, leftovers, and 5 minutes without someone needing something from me. Neil was standing in the middle of the living room like he'd been waiting, arms crossed, eyes flicking toward the hallway, not even a, hey, just that stiff, fake, calm look he pulled when he was hiding something. "We need to talk," he said. That sentence doesn't ever mean anything good. I dropped my bag by the coat rack and kept my voice steady. "Okay, what's going on?" He didn't sit, didn't ask me to, just stood there, jaw tight. "It's about my dad. He's not doing well. Heart's acting up again. Doc says he can't live alone anymore." "Okay," I nodded. "So what are you thinking? You want him to move in here? We've got the guest room. That works." Neil blinked like I'd thrown him off, just for a second. Then he recovered fast. "There's already a plan," he said. "It's handled. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from." The words felt rehearsed, cold, like he was reading from a damn script. Before I could ask what the hell that meant, the front door opened behind me. I turned and there was Roy. Suitcase in one hand, duffel in the other, stepping into my house like he owned it. Neil didn't even look surprised. He walked right past me, took Roy's bag, and smiled. "He's moving in. Starting tonight?" "What?" I blinked. "You didn't even ask." "There's no point fighting about it," Neil cut in. "He needs a stable place. He's taking the master." My mouth went dry. "Excuse me?" "You can take the guest room," he said, already walking down the hall like it was decided. "It's just better this way." I stood frozen for a second. Then I turned, marched to the kitchen drawer, and pulled out the manila folder I'd been holding onto for the past week. My name, big and bold across the top. If Neil thought he could move me out of my own damn bedroom, he was about to find out just how badly he miscalculated. I held the folder tight in my left hand, knuckles white, but kept my voice even. "Neil, what exactly do you mean your dad's taking the master bedroom?" He didn't answer right away, just stood beside Roy, both of them facing me like a damn united front, like I was the problem standing in the way of their big plan. Roy let out a fake sigh, like this was hard for him. "Look, this isn't just about the room. We've been talking. Things around here haven't been working for a long time." Neil nodded slowly, like they'd rehearsed it. "You're always gone, Paige. Always working late. Weekends, too. This place feels empty even when you're here." I stared at him. "I manage a whole regional supply chain, Neil. You know that. It's how we pay the bills. It's how we've been upgrading everything around here." He ignored that. "It's not about money, it's about presence. You're checked out, always glued to your phone, your laptop. I don't even remember the last time we had dinner together." Roy chimed in again, tone smug. "Back in my day, wives were partners. They made a house feel like a home. They didn't put careers first and marriage second." I could feel my heartbeat climbing, but I kept my face still. "So this is what? An ambush?" Neil shrugged. "It's a decision. We're tired of waiting for you to come back to this marriage. And honestly, I think it's time you go." "Go?" I asked. He nodded, dead serious. "Tonight. You can pack a bag and figure out the rest later. Roy and I will stay here. It's better for everyone." It was so absurd, I almost laughed. "You're kicking me out of my own house?" Roy crossed his arms. "Don't make this ugly, Paige. Be mature. You've already been half gone for months." Neil added, "We just want peace, okay? You always seem like you'd rather be anywhere but here, so go. Be where you want." I looked at them. The gall. The arrogance. Like I was some inconvenience they finally found the nerve to evict. Without a word, I walked to the dining table, set the folder down, and flipped it open. I slid the deed across the table toward Neil. He squinted at it. "What's this?" I tapped the top line. "Read it." He leaned in, eyes moving slower now, then again. "This is... what? Wait, this says the house is fully paid off." Roy stepped forward, peering over his shoulder. "Hold on. This says it's in her name only." I looked straight at Neil. "It's not some typo. I paid off the mortgage 6 months ago. With my bonus, with my savings, it's my house." Neil's mouth opened, but nothing came out. Roy blinked like he'd been slapped. "You're lying," Roy said. I reached into the folder again and pulled out a printed report. I tossed it on top of the deed. That's my branch's quarterly numbers. I've been regional operations lead for almost a year now. This house, I earned it. Roy scoffed. Women in my day didn't throw titles around. They supported their husbands. You mean they stayed quiet while you walked all over them? I said. He didn't answer. I turned to Neil. You tried to kick me out of my own house. You brought your father into this. You tried to flip my life upside down like I was just some tenant you could evict. Nah, that ends tonight. Neil swallowed hard. Wait, just slow down, okay? No, I said, pointing to the hallway. You and your dad need to pack your things. You're not staying here. Roy's face twisted. This is outrageous. You think so? I snapped. Then call a lawyer, but you better do it from somewhere else. I stepped back, arms folded, and waited. No yelling, no tears, just stone-cold silence while they realized the game had flipped. And I wasn't leaving. They were. Neil was still staring at the deed like it might change if he looked long enough. Roy stepped in front of him, grabbed the folder, and flipped through the papers. This can't be right. This has to be some kind of mistake. No mistake, I said, voice steady. The mortgage was paid off 6 months ago. I wired the final payment myself. Every dime came from my bonus and private account. Roy looked up sharply. You went behind Neil's back to do this? I laughed once. You mean I handled the house while he was busy ignoring every conversation I tried to have about money, growth, and planning for the future? Yeah, I did. Neil finally spoke. You never said it was paid off. I turned to him. I did. 3 separate times. You waved it off each time. You said you were tired, or you changed the subject. You didn't want to hear it. Roy tossed the report down. It's a setup. No wife keeps this stuff from her husband unless she's planning something shady. I kept it from you two because I knew one of you would pull something like this, I said, staring him down. And I was right. Roy gave that smug little smirk. Back in my day, women knew how to support their men, not compete with them. And back in your day, men didn't know how to handle a woman making more than them, I snapped. You ever think that's the real issue here? Roy stepped toward me like he thought he could intimidate me. You're full of yourself. I reached back into the folder and pulled out one last document, clean, notarized, and signed in blue ink. I held it up. You want to talk about full of yourself? Let's talk about this postnup. Neil blinked. What postnup? I handed it to him. The one you signed a year ago. Remember when I got promoted and you got weird about it? You were nervous about the money, about what would happen if things went south. You said you needed reassurance. He flipped through the pages, eyes scanning. I kept going. I paid for the lawyer. We sat in her office. You had time to read it. I even asked you twice if you were sure. You said yes, signed the papers, and went to get tacos like nothing happened. Neil's hands started to shake a little. I thought it was symbolic. I shook my head. It's legal, binding, and it says if we split, the house stays mine. Period. Roy's voice rose. You tricked him. No, I protected myself. There's a difference. Neil looked up, pale. So you're serious? You really want us to leave? I didn't blink. Tonight, Roy scoffed. Where the hell are we supposed to go? That sounds like a you problem, I said. You packed your bags like you were ready to take over. Time to unpack them somewhere else. Neil looked down at the document again, like it might vanish. I can't believe this. You didn't believe anything I told you for the last year? Why start now? Roy slammed the folder shut. You're going to regret this. Tearing apart your marriage over what? Some title, some money? I'm not tearing anything apart. I'm just finally admitting it's already broken. Neil ran his hand through his hair, then turned to Roy like he expected backup. Roy said nothing. He just stood there, red-faced, jaw clenched. I grabbed the folder, tucked it under my arm, and walked to the entryway. I opened the door and pointed out into the night. You've got until midnight. After that, I call the cops. They didn't move. I stared straight at Neil. You tried to erase me from my own life. You're not staying in it. Neil finally moved, stepping toward me like he was trying to plead his case. Paige, come on. You never told me about the promotion or your salary. I didn't know anything. I rolled my eyes. You didn't listen. That's different. He shook his head. No, seriously, I would have remembered. You sure? I said. Because I told you in the kitchen the day I got the offer. You nodded, said, nice babe, and walked out to finish mowing the lawn. That, he started, but I didn't let him. I told you again 2 weeks later when I got the first bonus check. You were on the couch, glued to the game. You said, "We'll talk after playoffs." Never came back to it. He opened his mouth, but I kept going. Then again, when I hit the regional numbers back in January, I showed you the report. You said you were tired and just wanted to eat. Roy snorted. This is manipulation. You're twisting everything. You deliberately hid your success to pull this power play. No, Roy, I snapped. I gave Neil chance after chance to be part of it. He didn't care. You just couldn't stand the fact I didn't need your son to keep this house running. Roy stepped forward, voice rising. You're trying to make him look like a fool. You both did that on your own, I shot back, plotting to kick me out like squatters in a place you didn't even help pay for. You had this all planned, Roy growled. What, were you sitting around waiting to throw this in our faces? I raised my eyebrow and pulled my phone from my back pocket, unlocked it, hit play. Neil's voice came through, clear as day. You should go. Tonight. Roy and I will stay here. Roy's voice followed. Don't make this ugly page. Be mature. I let it run for another few seconds, then hit pause. I recorded everything the moment Roy walked through the door with bags. Thought I should protect myself. Turns out I was right. Roy's face twisted, red to the ears. You'll regret this, you hear me? You'll regret throwing your marriage away like this. Women like you end up alone. Better alone than surrounded by two cowards trying to hijack my life. He stepped toward me, hands balled into fists, but Neil grabbed his arm. Stop! Roy turned to him. You're just going to let her throw you out? Neil looked like something inside him finally cracked. His shoulders sagged. His face dropped. I didn't know she paid the house off. I didn't know about the postnup. I didn't know any of it. Roy spat at the floor. Because she didn't tell you. I stared at Neil. You really still believe that? He didn't answer. Just looked down at the floor like a kid who got caught. I walked to the door, opened it, and held it there. Neither of them moved. I'm not going to ask again, I said. You don't live here. You never did. And you sure as hell aren't staying tonight? Roy muttered something under his breath, grabbed his duffel, and stormed past me without another word. Neil stood there for a second longer, like he thought I might cave. I didn't blink. He grabbed his suitcase and followed. I shut the door behind them, turned the lock, and exhaled. The silence was the loudest damn thing I'd heard all day. The next morning, Neil sent a long text claiming he didn't understand the legal terms of the postnup and wanted to talk things through. I didn't respond. I forwarded the message to my attorney and scheduled the divorce filing that same afternoon. He tried to fight it, of course, claimed I'd sprung the postnup on him, said he was pressured, that it wasn't fair because we hadn't divorced yet, so it shouldn't kick in. But the lawyer I hired months ago, Sarah Benton, out of Dallas, knew exactly what she was doing. That document was airtight. Neil had signed with full consent, and it had been notarized in front of 2 witnesses. Roy, naturally, tried to jump in, showed up at mediation looking smug in a dated blazer, holding a bunch of printed screenshots and scribbled notes. Claimed he'd contributed significantly to the property and deserved a portion of it. I slid a folder across the table. Here are the last 24 months of bank records. Mortgage paid from my solo account, utilities, maintenance, furniture, repairs, all out of my income. There's not a single dollar from Roy Baker anywhere in those statements. The mediator barely blinked. Roy's jaw worked like he wanted to argue but couldn't find the words. Neil didn't even look at me. He just stared at the table, chewing his bottom lip. I kept my voice calm. He gets half our joint savings account and the Corolla. That's all he's entitled to. Everything else was mine before or after the marriage. It's already documented. Sarah nodded beside me. The state will uphold the postnup. This is a clean split. Roy leaned toward Neil, whispering fast, desperate. You can still fight. You don't have to let her bulldoze you. You've got rights. Neil rubbed his face and shook his head. She warned me, over and over. I didn't listen. Roy hissed, she's embarrassing you. Neil finally looked up, not at me, but at Roy. No, Dad, I did that myself. I sat back in my chair, silent, watching it all unfold. I wasn't angry anymore. Just done. The paperwork moved fast after that. Sarah filed, Neil signed within the week, and the court approved the divorce in under 2 months. No delays, no appeals, just signatures and silence. Neil got the car, a third of our modest savings. His name was off the deed, off the insurance, off everything. Roy never even showed up to the last hearing. I left the courthouse alone, tossed the final stamped documents in the passenger seat, and didn't look back. A week after the divorce finalized, I got an email from a reporter with Business Pulse Weekly. Subject line, Feature Opportunity, Women Reshaping American Logistics. I thought it was spam, almost deleted it. Turned out they'd seen my quarterly numbers from the Southwest region. I was one of 5 regional leads who doubled distribution efficiency post-COVID. Our Dallas branch alone had cut freight delays by 30% while keeping labor retention at 90 plus. Apparently, that was newsworthy. They sent a photographer, shot me outside the warehouse with forklifts buzzing behind me and boxes stacked 20 feet high. I wore my safety vest and scuffed boots on purpose. I wanted the shot to show exactly where I belonged. 2 weeks later, the article went live. Full-page headline, From Warehouse Floor to National Lead, the Woman Rewriting the Rulebook. My name, my face, my story. The same afternoon, Neil messaged me, short and awkward. Saw the article. I'm proud of you. Sorry I didn't see it when it mattered. I read it twice, didn't smile, didn't cry, just locked my phone and set it on the desk. There was nothing left to say. I poured myself into work harder than ever. This time, with no one waiting at home to guilt me for late nights or missed dinners. I finalized a plan to open 2 new branches, Phoenix and Kansas City, and started hiring. HR doubled, payroll expanded. We brought on bilingual supervisors and a logistics tech team to overhaul routing software. My calendar stopped having space for anything that wasn't pushing us forward. Family and old friends started calling, texting, commenting on the article like they suddenly saw me. Didn't know you were doing all that? Wow, Paige, you really made something of yourself. Should have talked about it more. Funny how that works. I'd been grinding nonstop for 5 years. Same job, same hours. I hadn't changed. They just hadn't been paying attention. I stopped downplaying everything, stopped using words like just and small and kind of. When people asked what I did, I told them straight. I led operations across 5 states and 100 employees. I'd saved my company $2 million in 2 years. That was me. For the first time in years, I felt steady, focused, untouchable. I wasn't carrying anyone anymore. I wasn't shrinking myself to keep a marriage from tipping over. I wasn't apologizing for ambition or pretending I was tired just to sound relatable. I was building something, and doing it with both hands, eyes wide open. And the best part? It was mine. I was halfway through a steak and a whiskey sour when my cousin Leah set her fork down and leaned across the booth. Do you ever regret how things ended with Neil? I wiped my mouth and shook my head. Not how it ended. Just that I let it go on so long. She raised an eyebrow. You sure? I regret shrinking myself to make the marriage easier, I said. I got real good at dimming the lights so he wouldn't feel small. Leah sighed. That's heavy. Yeah, and dumb. I took another bite. I kept thinking it would balance out. That maybe if I stayed quiet enough, humble enough, I could have both. Him and my career. But he didn't want balance. He wanted control. I nodded. And his dad made it worse. Roy was always in the background, dropping comments about how a real wife would be home more, how women who outshine their husbands end up divorced. He poisoned every room he entered. Leah frowned. He was always kind of a jackass, huh? Kind of, I said, laughing. The man treated Neil like his second spine. No opinions, no decisions, unless Roy signed off first. I reached into my bag and slid my phone across the table. Look at this. She unlocked the screen, read the message, and rolled her eyes. I'm in therapy now. Just wanted you to know I'm working on myself. That came last night, I said. The 4th one this month. Leah pushed the phone back to me. So? How does it make you feel? I shrugged. Tired, mostly. Like too little, too late. You think he's being honest? Probably, I said. But it doesn't matter. Therapy won't fix the part of him that looked at me and saw a threat instead of a partner. She picked up her drink. Still wild he didn't realize who he was married to until he was out of the house. I sat back in the booth and looked around the restaurant. Families, couples, groups of coworkers. All of them chatting, laughing, pretending not to be carrying the weight of 10 things at once. I'm not bitter, I said. I'm just done. He can keep texting if he wants, but I've got bigger things to build. Leah smiled. Like what? Like an actual life. A real one. No shrinking. No walking on eggshells. Just me, my team, my work. That's enough. She raised her glass. To no more dimming. I clinked mine against hers. To staying lit. A year later, I stood inside my new office in Charlotte, staring out the glass wall while two forklifts zipped around the lot below. I had 3 new branches up and running: Charlotte, Denver, and St. Louis. 25 employees across 5 cities. Clients in 15 states. Contracts lined up through next fall. My name wasn't just on the employee roster anymore. It was on the tax ID, the LLC paperwork, and the contracts. I didn't just lead operations. I owned them. When the Charlotte branch broke even ahead of schedule, I gave myself one gift. I sold the old house. Too many ghosts in those walls. The master bedroom, the garage door Neil never fixed, the dining room where Roy ran his mouth. All of it had to go. I bought a downtown loft, high ceilings, smart lighting, no yard, no attic. Just space that worked the way I did. Clean, focused, no room for clutter. The night I moved in, I poured a glass of wine, took off my shoes, and sat on the bare wood floor, listening to the city buzz through the windows. It was the first time in years I felt completely alone, and didn't hate it. 3 days later, Neil called. Not a text, not an email, an actual call. The name popped up on my screen while I was going over shipping forecasts with my assistant. I almost let it go to voicemail. But curiosity got the better of me. I answered. His voice cracked right away. "Hey, I saw your name in logistics today. Congratulations." "Really?" I stayed quiet. I wanted to say I'm proud of you," he said. "I've been in therapy. I'm working through things. I see how much I missed, how much I didn't support you. I'm sorry." It wasn't fake. He sounded worn down, softer than I remembered. Not defeated, just hollow, like someone who finally realized he burned down the house with himself still in it. I waited a second, then said, "I appreciate that." Silence hung on the line. "I mean it," he added. "You were incredible. I just didn't know how to handle it." I nodded slowly, even though he couldn't see me. "Yeah, I know." He sighed. "I don't expect anything. I just wanted to tell you." I looked around the loft. White counters, tall windows, a desk that fit my life instead of shrinking it. "I wish you well, Neil," I said. "Really, but we're done." He let out a breath. "Okay. Take care of yourself." "You too." I hung up before he could say more. The phone buzzed once more. Just a calendar reminder. Inventory cycle review at 3. I turned back to my screen, closed out the call log, and dove back into the numbers. There were bigger things ahead. I stood in my office, hands in my pockets, looking out over the skyline. The sun was dropping behind the buildings, throwing long shadows across the windows. Traffic hummed below. Somewhere in the warehouse, someone was laughing, probably over missed pallets or a broken coffee pot. I used to stare out a window like this and wonder if I was too much, too driven, too focused, too far ahead of where I was allowed to be. Now, I thought about the woman they tried to cast aside, the one Neil ignored, the one Roy tried to belittle into submission. She didn't just survive, she built something. She took every insult, every eye roll, every "don't work too hard," and turned it into fuel. They thought pushing me out would put me in my place. Instead, it cleared the runway. I didn't wonder what they were doing now. I didn't check Roy's social media or ask mutual friends how Neil was holding up. That part of my life was over. What I did think about was what my absence cost them. They wanted me gone. Now they've got it. They don't have my time, or my labor, or my silence. No comfort, no meals, no soft place to land. They traded all of it for ego. I wasn't looking for revenge. I wasn't building my life just to rub it in their faces. I was building it because I could. Because no one told me I was allowed to before. Because being underestimated is the best armor in the world. Quiet, invisible, bulletproof. Let them carry their loss. I've got meetings to run, teams to grow, a life that finally fits, and a future they never saw coming.